And I showed you these examples, right? We find a full color image. So when you're looking for your image, you're going to look for a full color photograph, a professionally composed photograph. You're going to bring it into Photoshop, and we're going to create a border around the outside. And we're going to also make it black and white and bring some areas of color back. And we're going to add some text, and we're going to do all kinds of cool stuff with it. So we're making this basically into like a Captain America poster instead of just a photo that you saw on the internet. Okay? Let's just go ahead and do this just because I want you to have this experience of cropping something. So if you have your picture open, we're going to look for this thing right here. It's the rectangular marquee tool. The squares, right? Square with the dotted lines. We're going to drag a box around Captain America. Don't cut off any of his shield. That's the most important part of Captain America. But we don't need all of this left side. So I'm going to kind of start over here. And we don't need all that right side either. So I'm going to end over here. So I'll zoom in and show you where my marching ants are. You see them right there? I'm cutting off a little bit over here. And I'm cutting off a little bit over here. Okay? So just drag a box like that so that we could trim some of this. Okay, cropping. So we're going to go to the top of the screen and select Image at the top of the screen, and we're going to go down to Crop. Image, Crop. Now what happens is everything that we did not select is gone. If you messed up, what do? Command Z. Command Z will undo it. If you didn't mess up, you're fine. We're going to hold Command right now and press the letter D. Command D is going to deselect. Command D is going to deselect, so the marching ants go away. Okay, changing the size of the canvas. This is the most confusing part of the entire project. And what you're doing is you're going to make the paper bigger, the canvas, we call it in Photoshop, bigger, but you're going to keep the image the same size. So we're not making this poster larger. We're making the border larger. We're increasing the space around it. The first thing you need to do is rename the background layer. So there's two ways to do this. The first way is the way I've always used. It's the old school way. You double click the word background, and then it says, okay, well, what do you want to name the background? And you're like, I don't care, just not background. And when you click OK, you're going to notice that the lock goes away. If the background is there and it's locked, it means nothing can go below it. And we need stuff to go below it. So you double click the word background in your layers palette and rename it layer 0 to unlock it. The other way to do this, which I think is a little more slick way, somebody showed me this a couple years ago. They're like, if you just take the lock and you drag the lock to the trash can, it goes away. And it renames it layer 0. And I was like, well, that's really cool. We're going to go to the top of the screen and go to Image. And we're going to go to Canvas Size. Image, Canvas Size. Now, what you're going to notice is that this Captain America poster is enormous. It's 33 inches by 24 inches. It's like it'll cover half of your wall in your room. Like it'll cover your entire door with this picture. We need to make it even bigger. So what you need to do is make this, it says on your sheet, make it approximately 3 inches bigger for the width and 3 inches bigger for the height. So we got to do a little bit of a math problem. Now I'm going to tell you this, that when you make it 3 inches bigger and it's already 33 inches, that's not going to be very much. It's going to be this tiny little border. So what we're going to do is increase this by 10. It says 3 on your handout, but it's going to be different for everyone's photo, so it might be more or less. So let's make it 10. What's 33 plus 10?
43.
Very good, 43. What's 24 plus 10? Wait, what's 25 plus 10? Holy cow. 35. 35. I feel like I'm doing math homework with my daughter. She's 6. 43 by 35. Click OK. What happened? This is the part where you're like, ooh. Yeah, thank you. All right, so what happened was the outside got bigger. And there's checkerboards on it, which means nothing's there. So what we've just done is created a transparent border around Captain America. There's nothing there. We increased the size of the canvas. Okay, what does that mean? We're going to come down here to the bottom of your layers palette. We're going to click on the new layer icon, and we're going to have a new layer, which is called layer 1. So in your layers palette, yours should look like mine. You've got layer 0 has Captain America that lives there with a transparent background or border. And then layer 1 has nothing on it, more checkerboards. Okay, so the new layer icon next to the trash can, we clicked it once to create a new layer. Now the next step, number 4, says drag this new layer. Here's the new layer right here, 1. Drag it below the other layer so it functions as the background. So what we're going to do is drag layer 1 below layer 0 and let go so they switch places. All we did was this. We dragged layer 1 below layer 0 and they switch places. Captain America's on top, layer 1's on the bottom. Do this now. We want to make your background color white by pressing the letter D on the keyboard. Now when you do this, it's not going to look like anything happens. I'm going to show you what is happening so that you know that I'm not just saying press D for the heck of it. You see how these two colors right now are different? If you press the letter D, it changes to this. Make sure you are on layer 1, not layer 0. Layer 1, hold Command and press the Delete key. Command Delete. What that just did was it filled the layer with white. So yours should now look like this. Captain America photo, white border. Number 7. Joking. Number 7. I need water when I'm doing this. Click on the layer with your image to activate this layer. So we're going to click on the layer with our image to activate the layer. That means go back up to Captain America. Drag your image layer to the new layer icon to make a copy of it. So we're going to take Captain America and drag him down to the new layer icon and let go. Watch what this looks like. Drag Captain America down to the new layer icon next to the trash can and let go. And now we have a clone of Captain America. Now we're going to turn Captain America black and white. So let's go to Image at the top of the screen. Image, Adjustments, and then go down to black and white. But rather than just click OK, what I would suggest is that we mess around with the reds, the yellows, the greens, the cyans, the blues, and magentas. What happens when you slide these is you can darken anything or lighten anything that is that particular color. So I'm going to actually lighten the reds a little bit because it brightens up that photo. We're looking for this photo to be interesting in black and white. So don't really worry about, well, what am I doing with the, there's actually no greens in this photo. When I drag this back and forth, nothing happens. So you want to try your different color channels. These are like channels on your television. And you can move these back and forth, and you can get different effects. So we want to make sure we're on layer 0 copy. And we're going to create this thing called a layer mask. Now the layer mask is probably one of the top 3 most important tools in Photoshop, and it's hidden down here. It's this little thing that looks kind of like a Japanese flag. It's light gray and it's black, right? Click on it one time. Okay? You're on that black and white layer. You click on it one time. Look what happened. It made an extra little box with a chain next to it. The layer mask is something that you can paint on that will cover up what's on this layer. So everything that is white is now revealed. Whatever I paint black on this layer is going to cover it up. So watch how this works. Don't try it yet. Just watch. I'm going to grab a paintbrush and I'm going to start to paint on this photo. And what's going to happen? Everything I paint over turns to color. It looks like a paintbrush. That's why we call it the brush tool. Don't get this one. This one's bad. This is the history brush. I didn't even know. We don't even want to mess with that guy. The brush tool is just a brush, not a brush with an arrow. Okay? Now look at the top of your screen and you're going to see that you can make adjustments to your brush. The first one is right here where it says the size. Click the down arrow and you're going to see that you can adjust the size of your brush. You could also adjust the hardness of your brush. What does that mean? You can make the brush soft, or you can make the brush hard. We're going to make the brush a hard brush so that we can be very precise with what we do. But if you wanted to like sort of airbrush something in, you would use a soft brush or somewhere in between. We're going to use a hard brush for right now. You want to make sure you're normal, your mode is normal, and your opacity and your flow are 100%. And what we're going to do is we're just going to color in the red stripes on Captain America's shield. So if I paint with black, it reveals the color. Watch what happens when I paint with white. If I flip these and paint with white, watch this. Color goes away. So painting with black reveals the color. Painting with white takes it away. That there is an additional little box next to the picture of Captain America right here. So there's a black and white image, and next to it there's a white box. When you reopen your images, the first thing you need to do is click on that box to make sure that you're on the mask. So look in your layers palette, and if you have a little white box around Captain America, you need to click on the white box next to Captain America because that's the mask. If you just opened it and you started painting black, you would actually be painting black on the photo. You wouldn't be painting on the layer mask, right? You'd be painting, you'd be like, oh, it's like I got a Sharpie marker and I'm painting all over my picture, and that's no good. So we want to make sure that you go to the mask to activate that. Now, if you already started doing that and you already ruined it, just go to history. Yeah, right? If that happened, just go to history right here. And just go back to when you opened it. So just go back a few steps until all that junk goes away. And once you get back to open, you might have to click on this top box, but once you get back to open, all that stuff should go away. So we're going to do, we'll type hero, we'll go with that. So to get to the type tool, you could actually type whatever you want. So if you want to type capsicle, go ahead. As long as you're using type, I don't really care what you type on here. So we're going to go over here and look in the toolbar, and you're going to see the letter T, and that is the type tool, the horizontal type tool. That's the one we want to use. Click once on that. Now there's lots of other type tools here, but I don't ever want you to use any of them. So we're always going to just be the horizontal type tool. And in order to create type, you just click once on your picture. So just go ahead and click once on the top of your picture, and you're going to get a flashing line. Now the flashing line that you get, a little blinking line, is going to probably be really small. Yeah, it's going to be really small type where you can't really even see it, right? And then the font, what font is it on by default?
No idea.
What does it say at the top, the name of the font right here?
Myriad?
Yeah, that's probably right. So by default, your typeface or font is Myriad. So I'm going to go ahead and find that so we're all on the same page. Myriad's a nice font. And what we're going to do now that we have that flashing line or blinking line is we're going to type whatever it is we're going to type. So I'm going to type hero. And I can't read it because it's tiny. It's so cute, right? If you zoomed in, it would say hero. So now what we're going to do in order to, this is called setting the type. So when you type something, it's kind of there, but it's not stuck yet. We're going to set it. We're going to stick it to the page. So what you do in order to set your type is you just click the move tool. So right here, click the move tool. And now the blinking line goes away. And we've got this little tiny word that says hero. We need a magnifying glass to know that that says hero. But there it is. Now if you look in your layers palette, you'll see that it automatically creates a new type layer for you. So my layer says hero, and that's what I typed. So we've got the word hero. Now what we're going to do to change the word hero is we're going to double click the T, not over by the toolbar, but in the layers palette. So in front of the word that you typed, there's a letter T in the layers palette. Double click it, and it will highlight it so that you can make changes to it. The first thing we have is we have the ability to change the font, which this is just like any other program you would use, word processing program that you would use on a computer or Google Docs. So if you click the down arrow, it gives you this menu of different typefaces that you can use. So you've got all these different fonts to choose from. Go ahead and click on whatever one you want. Change it to whatever, just to see how that works. So I changed mine to Onyx. I don't think that's going to work for what I want, but for now it's fine. Now if we move over here next to Onyx, maybe you have some options, like maybe you can make the type bold, maybe you can make it italics or light. We're going to skip that for now. It's not important. The next menu where you have the two little T's, this is the thing I want you guys to see. Look on my screen up here. You see the two little T's and then the number 13? This is the size of the font. Now, what a lot of people that use Photoshop, or beginners, think is that you can only make type up to 72 points. Point is the size. So if you click the down arrow next to the 13, or whatever it's on, it looks like you can only go to 72. So you click on 72 and you're like, oh, the hero is there, but it's still kind of tiny. I want my word to be a little bit bigger. What you can do is you just hover over the T's like this, these two little guys. And if you drag to the right, the text gets bigger. And if you drag to the left, the text gets smaller. So everybody go ahead and try to make your text bigger. All right, the next thing, moving over to the right, it says the word sharp. Just leave that alone. Leave it on sharp. There's sharp and smooth and strong, and this does very little for what we're trying to accomplish here, so don't worry about that. The next thing right here, these lines aren't very important for us because we're not typing a paragraph. We're just typing a word. So by aligning it different, it isn't really going to do anything like centering or right justifying or left. The next box is important though, where that black box is right there. By default, your type is black, right? We want to make it a different color. So let's go ahead and click the black box and you will get the color picker. Another thing that a lot of people do when they're first starting out with Photoshop is they'll go, oh, I get to pick from all these colors. And they start clicking along the rainbow here and they're like, oh, I'll choose green and oh, that doesn't work. Maybe I'll try this green or that green. And you've got all these unrelated things going on. Even if I picked a red, maybe the red wouldn't quite be the right red. And it really stands out and it doesn't look good. I want the red to be the same red that's in the shield. Or if I use blue, I want to use the same blue that's in the shield because I want the whole thing to work together. So in order to do that, you can go like this. Watch it's really easy. You just come over here onto the picture itself, onto the photo itself. And if I click on the red part of his shield, it changes to that exact red color. Or if I click in this blue area, it changes the color to that blue. You see how it's shifting the color depending on where I drop it? This is a little bit more advanced, but I think it definitely makes a big difference. It's called the character panel, and it's this little thing that looks like a file folder with lines on it. So let's go ahead and click on the character panel, and it gives you all these other things that you can do. You can access the color from here. You can access the font from here and the size from here, just like we did before. But you have access to some other things, and one of them is called tracking. So by setting the tracking, what you're doing to the font is you're actually determining how far apart the letters are. Have you ever seen like some piece of printed material and you're like, wow, that type just looks really cool. Like the fact that the letters are spread out just makes it work. And then you're like, how come it doesn't look like that when I type it? It's because you've never adjusted tracking. This is not something commonly that people will do. They'll just choose a font and maybe change the size, but they don't ever think about the spacing in between the letters. So the word hero looks quite different when it's compressed like this versus when it's spread out like this, right? So you can adjust tracking. You can also adjust the vertical and horizontal dimensions of the type. So to change the vertical scale, if you drag this T this way, the word hero gets taller. And if you drag this one, the word hero gets wider. So you can actually affect the spacing between letters. You can also affect the look of the letter. And there's some typefaces that you'll come across that are just not really, they're not set very well. Like the letters don't look correct. You can adjust that by going into that character palette, which is what we just did. The next thing that we have to deal with is the positioning of the type. Where is it going to go in the composition? And look at my page up here and just think about this for a second. It's probably something that you may not have thought of. If I leave the word hero up here at the top, it's the first thing that you encounter as the viewer. So if you were to look at this, you would read the word and then you would look at the image. So you would read hero and then you would see Captain America and you would go, I get it. Captain America is a hero, right? But if I move the text down here, now I'm interacting with the type after the image. So now I'm looking at a picture and going, oh, look, Captain America. And then I look down here and I go, hero. Oh, I get it. Captain America, hero. So depending on how you want the person to read your image, you have to decide, do you want the text to be more in the top toward the left or more in the bottom toward the right? So just put the text wherever you think it should go. You could put it right across his face if you want to. We're labeling him a hero right now. Okay, the other thing that we have, there are lots of typefaces to choose from, but I want to give you all more options. So I don't want you to design something and be limited to whatever typefaces are in Photoshop, because we've all seen them a billion times on various things. So let's go ahead and choose something else. Let's go shopping for fonts. So we get to go do some online shopping right now. Everybody go to the internet, and you can use Google Chrome or Safari. Go to the internet, and I want to show you a secret website that's really awesome. It's called dafont.com. So you could search by like theme. So if we could try to find like a cartoon one or a comic one or an old school one or a foreign one or a techno one. Depending on what you're working on, you might want to find a font that matches your project. Well, I already found a font that matches our project, and it's called American Captain. So if we type into the search bar right here on the right, now because of copyright and licensing, they're not able to make a font and give it away that's called Captain America, so they pick these weird names. So if I wanted to find like the Walt Disney font, and I typed Walt Disney, it would lead me nowhere. But if I type something like Walter, I might find a font that was Walt Disney. I don't know. I haven't found that one. But if you do, you could let me know what the secret code is for that. So we're going to download Captain America font, and we're going to use it.
It's called Walter.
It's called Walter?
Yeah.
Shut up.
I swear.
Seriously? I'm so smart. Okay, so we've typed in American Captain, and we see that there is a font that looks like the Captain America font that they used in the movie titles. And what you guys need to really pay attention to, it's not really letting me zoom here, which is like really making me want to cry. I can't zoom in. It's like my favorite thing to do. It says that the Captain America font next to this download button over here, it says that it's free for personal use, which means it's free, but you can't make money if you use it in something. So if you work for my company and I'm paying you and you're like, yeah, I'm going to use this font in this brochure on this business card, and I pay you money, that's where it gets illegal. So it can't be for commercial use. We're not getting paid, so let's go ahead and feel free to use this. When you're looking for fonts, they have to be free or free for personal use. So go ahead and click download. And when you click download, it should download. And you might get a little window down here, or I might get this little folder over here, my downloads folder. Either way, what you guys need to do after you click download is you need to find the folder that says American Captain. You need to click on it. Then you need to find the one that says TTF. American Captain TTF. We're going to double click it. American Captain TTF. Then we're going to install it, and now we can use it. The type layer that says hero. And then go over into your fonts, and these are in alphabetical order. So now if I go all the way up to A, I can find American Captain, and bam, I've got hero looking like Captain America. But what we can do in Photoshop that we can't do in most other software is we could put effects on the letters to make them not just look flat. We can make them look kind of fancy or glowing, or we could put shadows on them and make them look like they're made of steel or different materials. We can make type that looks like it's frozen or on fire. So Photoshop does that kind of cool stuff. And I want you guys to go to the bottom of your layers palette where it says FX. So we should still all be on the type layer. You might need to click the move tool to make sure your type is set. And then you're going to click on the effects, and we're all going to choose, let's just start with an easy one. Let's start with stroke. And what a stroke is, it's an outline. So go to the FX and then go to stroke. And then you get this menu. And what this menu does is it gives you some options to apply an outline to the text. So let's just go ahead and make the size of the stroke a little bit bigger, and you guys will see it, right? You see it? See how it gets wide and it gets skinny if I move the size back and forth? What else can I do to the stroke? I can change the position from outside to center, or I could change it to inside. What else can I do to it? I can change the blend mode. That really isn't going to do a whole lot. How about the color? You see the little box that has the color there? If I click on that black box, it will bring you to the color picker. So you can make the outline blue if you wanted to. Or a different kind of red. Maybe I'll make it like this pinkish red. I'll go with blue so we can see it. And then you click OK. So what happens is each one of these things do something different, and they all give you different options. Now you could probably spend hours going through here and trying to figure out what all these little buttons do and all these little, but I'm going to tell you that's probably not a good use of your time, because you'll end up with some mishmash of ugly effects that don't really do anything. So let's just go ahead and click OK for now and get out of this menu. So layer effects means that you could apply effects to a layer, which it just did that. It put an outline around the text. But there's another way to do it, and it's called layer styles. And layer styles is a little bit easier to use because they're pre-packaged effects. All right, so now what you do is, rather than try to go fishing for something that works with these effects down here, you just click on one of these buttons. So let's go ahead and just click on a button. Well, look what happens. Well, it applies those effects. That one is hideous. Most of them are really ugly.
I agree.
But they give us a starting point. Okay? So some of them, maybe you look at them and you're like, ah, that one's okay, and that one's kind of really terrible. And that one's okay. I could deal with that. Right? So layer styles is going to apply a bunch of different effects by just clicking a button. So it's like opening a suitcase of effects, and it applies it right to it. Now, this is better. So you got to look at my screen because, again, I can't zoom in, and I'm really sad about it. But up here on the top, you see this little arrow, this little thing next to the styles right here? This gives you more styles. So if you come down here, if you click on these lines with the little arrow, and you come down here, let's all go to the same one. Let's choose Text Effects 2. So there's one that says Text Effects 2. Find it with me. So we're in the Styles palette. In the Styles tab, we click on that little thing, and we click on Text Effects 2. And then it's going to say, what do you want to do? Do you want to append the list? Do you want to cancel, or do you want to just be OK? We're just going to be OK. So click OK.
Oh, wow.
Now you have new buttons, new styles. And these are a little bit better. Some of them are still ugly, but a lot of them are decent. Let's all choose the same one. Let's all choose the one that is called Double Green Slime.
What?
Now, that one's ugly, but we're going to make it not ugly. So everyone choose Double Green Slime. Now, you would not want to make something and then just apply a style to it and walk away from it, because anyone who's ever used Photoshop before will look at it and be like, oh, look at this person. They designed something and just used double green slime on it. Like, I would be like, you're lame. But it's a starting point. So what we're going to do is we're going to customize the style. So in your layers palette, you're going to see under the word hero, you can see the effects that were applied. It applied a bevel and emboss. It applied a stroke. And it applied a gradient overlay. So what we're going to do is choose Gradient Overlay. Double click where it says Gradient Overlay. And now we could change that. Green doesn't work for our Captain America picture. So the first thing I want to do is I want to change that gradient. So I'm going to click the down arrow next to the gradient, and let's choose something that's more Captain America-ish, which is none of them, right? The orange definitely doesn't work. Even the blue is terrible. Like, this is not good. This is not working out. The rainbow's okay.
I like the rainbow.
The blue, red, and yellow. But wouldn't it be better if it was red, white, and blue?
Yeah.
So let's do that.
Wow.
Right? Here's how we're going to do that. Now you need to click on the bar, not the arrow where it says gradient, the actual color bar. Everyone click on the color bar where it says gradient, and guess what you get? The gradient editor. The gradient editor is great fun because you can make your own gradients. So we could start moving these things around. You see these color things? These are called stops.
What did I do?
So if you move a stop, you can change the way that that gradient looks, and you can double click it to change the color of the gradient. So if I double click this, I'm going to make it red from his shield. And if I double click this one, I'm going to make it darker red. And if I double click this yellow one, I'm going to make it, I don't know, blue. Ooh, now it starts to match and things start to look like they're coming together. Just did. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to adjust the outline. So you remember from before, if you click on the word stroke, not on the checkbox next to stroke, but the actual word stroke, you can see, oh, there's an ugly green gradient around the outside of my letters. That is not working. So we're going to change that gradient too. Just click on it and change it to something that's not green. If I go down to the background layer, whatever I do to this layer down here, layer 1, it's going to become my background. So for instance, if I grab a gradient and I go like this, my background is now a gradient, which looks terrible, right? It's, well, what just happened to Captain America? Like, who did that? I got to get rid of it. It's so terrible. So I'm going back to the white one. What we're going to do is use images in the background, and I already found an image for us to use. So I'm going to open the shield. And then in order to put the shield into the picture, this becomes just like your photogram. Remember the digital photogram where we put two together?
That was so confusing.
Yeah, you just drag one to the other one. So we're going to use the move tool. Move tool. And we're going to drag and drop the image. Did yours go on Captain America's head? Did it go like that? Oh no. What do we do now? Did this happen? Yeah, it's okay. It's fine. It's fine. Look, mine's like that too. I'll break mine just so I can be like you. Look. Oh no. What do I do? Once you get this one into this one, you just take this layer and you drag it down in the stack. So now it's behind Captain America. It's still too small, but it's behind him at least. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. We're going to go Command T. We're going to hold Shift. And we're going to drag from the corner, and when we get it to where it's filling the background, we're going to press Enter or Return. And you just made a movie poster, right? So I'm going to open the clouds. I'm going to open the clouds in Photoshop. I already used the shield, but I'm going to open the clouds. The idea here, the reason that I had you all do the photograms where you combine two photograms together is because that's a cool thing to do with any two images. So I'm going to take the clouds and drag them into the background, and now watch what I'm going to do. Ready for this? Are you ready for this? I'm going to change the blend mode like you guys did with the photogram. So if I change the blend mode to multiply, now his shield is on fire. Fire! Look, now it's even... Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you guys aren't as excited about that as I am, but if you change the blend mode, you can change the way that the two layers blend together. Difference. Kind of interesting, but kind of ugly. Exclusion. Really just probably ugly. Vivid light. So you don't have to use just one image. You can use multiple images, change the blend modes, and have them blend together. So that's like level 2 stuff. Or 5.
Thanks for watching. Like, there's like a little button that they put on the laptop or something, and then they say click it, and then you can never even miss a video.
That's if you subscribe.